The last video I made about these two players was a negative video. I talked about these players in a way that painted them as quote-unquote not as good as I thought they would be. Because these two players, the Wahlgren Twins, Joel and Max Wahlgren, were two players that a lot of Vancouver fans were hyped about a few years ago. Because it was brought to everybody's attention once the Sedins retired that the 2019 draft in Vancouver featured two identical Swedish twins from Modo, Joel and Max Wahlgren. Now, everybody was excited to see what these guys would be able to do in their draft years, because if you remember, the Sedins, they retired in 2018, and these two guys were doing a pretty good job in the J18 Elite and the J18 Allsvenskan, pretty much the under-18 hockey leagues in Sweden. And that was in their draft -1 year. The Sedins retired at the end of 2018, so everybody was like, okay, let's take a look at 2018-19 and see how these twins will do. For the most part, one of them was pretty good, and that was Max Wahlgren. He had a pretty good 38 points in 42 games playing in the Junior 20 League, which is the Super Elite. Meanwhile, Joel Wahlgren wasn't doing too hot. He only had 18 points in 45 games. Ultimately, these two players didn't get drafted in the draft in Vancouver, and by default, they weren't drafted by the Canucks themselves, which everybody was kind of hoping that the Cinderella story would actually happen. Hey, new Swedish twins being drafted by Vancouver in Vancouver. It's the whole cycle coming back. It's the circle of life right there, but ultimately it didn't happen. I am now here today to talk to you about how the Wahlgren twins are progressing upwards, and things are looking pretty nice for Joel and Max Wahlgren. Let's take a look at each of these players individually right here. Max Wahlgren is the one who was doing better than Joel last season. They played for the same team, Modo Hockey J20, which is the U20 Modo Hockey Club playing in the Super Elite. Max Wahlgren is currently at 22 points in 19 games, which is a little bit of an improvement points per game-wise for Max, but, you know, improvement is always nice to see. Meanwhile, Joel Wahlgren is the one who honestly has had the biggest improvement right here. He had 18 points in 45 Super Elite games last year, which everybody kind of noted, yeah, that's not good. Especially for a guy who maybe had some hype going into the draft. He really didn't give people reasons to draft him in the first place with numbers like that. However, it's been 19 games played for Joel Wahlgren in the Super Elite, and he's already at 15 points. It took him 45 games to get to 18 points last year. This season, he's almost at a point per game. So the improvements with Joel Wahlgren are huge, and he's doing a pretty good job at keeping up with the pace. Sure, Max Wahlgren is first on the Super Elite Modo J20 team in points, but Joel Wahlgren is tied for second, which is a big improvement over where he finished last year. Last year, we did notice his point production. Last year, Joel Wahlgren was all the way down there at 9th on the team. Max Wahlgren was 3rd, so that's a big improvement for both of these players. And in fact, they've been so good for Modo's J20 team in the Super Elite that they're now playing in the Allsvenskan, and that is really great to see. We don't know how long they're going to be able to stay there. They've only played one game so far, but right now, Joel and Max Wahlgren are playing as two 18-year-olds in the second best pro hockey league in Sweden. It's certainly a step up from the Super Elite, so I'm not expecting a whole bunch of production out of these players, but the fact that they're even here is a very good sign in my opinion. They're playing with guys like Mattias Norlinder, who if you're a Habs fan, you know who that is. They're playing with guys like Tobias Enstrom, who is already an established NHL player who went back home to Sweden. Joel and Max Wahlgren are two players at 18 years of age who are playing in the second Pro Hockey League, and these two have taken such a big step from their draft years that I think it's a very good thing, and I think it's worth talking about, which is why I made this video here today. Now, we probably should clear up a few things before we start jumping to conclusions. Does this mean that these players are going to become the next Sedins? No, it really doesn't. The Sedins were in the SHL in their draft years, and they were doing really well. These two are just breaking into the second pro league in their draft plus 1 year, which is not bad, but it's not necessarily like NHL prospect caliber material. It's an awesome story, and Vancouver fans know these two because the hype around them 2 years ago was pretty real. But it's a nice bounce back after what was an unfortunately poor season that didn't end up having any of them get drafted, and seeing how they've progressed, both of them. Max has gotten better, and Joel has taken a huge step forward, and now they're in the Allsvenskan, and we'll see what happens next. Obviously, though, in order for these guys to be drafted into the NHL as draft plus 1 players playing in the second-tier pro league, they're gonna actually need to do really well. Like, really well. Just for your little NHL comparable, there have been a few guys who did kind of take somewhat of the same path, but were obviously a year advanced in comparison to the Wahlgrens. Philip Forsberg, for example, in his draft minus 1 year, he was over a point per game in the Super Elite, and he played 10 games in the Allsvenskan. And then in his draft year, he played in the Allsvenskan primarily, and had 17 points in 43 games. Elias Pettersson is a guy who in his draft year was with the Allsvenskan, and he broke the record for the most amount of rookie points scored, which was nuts. And we know how good Pettersson is today now. The picture I'm trying to paint is like this. If you took the Wahlgrens' numbers and you made it so that they were a year younger than they really are, this year they're 17 and they're playing in their draft years and they're playing in the Allsvenskan with 1 game played so far. These are NHL-like comparable numbers, which is not bad. It's just that they're a year older than some of the NHL stars have had when they were in this position. So honestly, we don't know the future of the Wahlgrens. I wouldn't really bet any money saying that they would make the NHL one day, but still, it's a pretty impressive story, and seeing these guys in the positions that they are definitely gives us a lot to be hopeful for watching the Modo as they go on and hoping for the best for these two twins. Because if they do make the NHL, I hope it's with Vancouver. I'd love to have another set of Swedish twins. Their numbers are 44 and 55. It makes sense. We have to have these guys. Sure, the media is gonna hound them, but whatever. That'd be really cool. Maybe that's just me as a Canucks fan getting all excited because two Swedish twins who exhibited kind of the same similar skill set as the Sedins did when they were teenagers are now existing in the Allsvenskan. And the way things are playing out, in a perfect scenario, I'd have Joel Wahlgren as the Daniel Sedin because he seems to get more goals, and Max Wahlgren as the Henrik Sedin because he's more of the assist kind of guy on the score sheet. Imagine a Wahlgren Pettersson. That's just kind of weird, man. But it sounds really cool in my head, but I don't necessarily think that it's ever going to happen. But again, their numbers are not bad. It's just that if you're taking a look at NHL projection, it's not necessarily there, but they're certainly not bad numbers. These two are probably going to play in the SHL one day, and they're probably going to be pretty good in the SHL. So it really depends on how things go moving forward. We know the SHL has been blessed with different sets of twins in the past. Obviously, the Sedins were there back when it was called the Elite Screen, and then Henrik Lundqvist's twin brother has been a captain in the league for years now. The guy came over to the NHL for a bit, but then he kind of went back, and now he's just there. But Sweden's had its fair share of twins. It's weird how no other country seems to have these. I mean, the Americans, they got themselves Ty and Dylan Jackson, who I also made a video about. They were two NHL eligible prospects in the most recent draft, two twin brothers as well. They're currently over a point per game with the Dubuque Fighting Saints in the USHL, which is really interesting. They're also going to the Northeastern Huskies next year, so they will most likely be joining Canucks prospects Tyler Madden and Aiden McDonough. Tyler Madden, by the way, best goal scorer in the NCAA as I'm recording this video, but that's a tale for another time. As with the Palmu video that I don't know if I uploaded it yet, or I probably uploaded it, right? Yeah, it was uploaded yesterday, maybe? I'm not sure. I'm recording this video on the Wahlgrens on Friday, November 22nd because we're going on a trip, but I probably should find a way to actually leave now, because I should be doing that. I'm kind of holding everybody up with my recording. Hope you enjoyed this video about the Wahlgren Social Natural 99, and bye.